Hey, what is up, YouTube? It's your girl Miranda here, and we got our very first deck tech video. So this is a deck that I was working on for Galactic Championships. So right up front, this is not a deck I would recommend for like a big serious tournament. It is a very fun deck, however, so this is definitely something that you can take to your locals and have a good time with. But yeah, so I worked on this for like a few weeks during spoiler season and then kind of realized that it wasn't good enough. But I still wanted to share it with everyone because like I said, it's super fun to play. So here's the deck list. So the idea of the deck is it's based around the set 5 Ezra Bridger and the Forces with me. So when Ezra Bridger was spoiled, it's like, what leader does this work super well with? And the answer is Sabine. This is probably like the best version of an Ezra deck. At least this is like the deck that uses Ezra's like on attack trigger the most. So there's a lot of specters, as we'll talk about later. But just having a guaranteed specter that you can play on the turn that Ezra gets to attack is super powerful. Also, the Forces with Me is another card that's if you put that on Sabine, and if you can guarantee having an early Force unit, oh boy, you create a monster Sabine that's very hard to deal with. And then plus it's like you get to use all the best force stuff. So it's like, hey, what if like Sabine could use force throw and all the best force units and all the best force payoffs? So this is kind of like where we ended up. So you get to use force throw, you get Kiadi Mundi, you get Mace Windu, and this is just kind of like the fastest and most aggressive version of this like red blue heroic force package. So why play this deck? First of all, it's super fun. Like, oh man, just being able to go Forces with Me on your Sabine and just like bam, hit you for 5. Like a 4/7 shielded attacking leader unit on turn 3 is really good. Most decks can't deal with that. And you get to cheese a lot of games with this giant unkillable Sabine. I mean, Sabine just gets out of hand if you get to attack more than once with Ezra, or, you know, God forbid, if you draw like more than one Forces with Me, you just snowball. And this deck is very, very fast. If your opponent can't meaningfully interact with your units, you will finish the game like by turn 4 or turn 5. It's really, really fast. And this is a very much like an off the radar deck. So like your opponent's gonna see like Sabine with a blue force base, and they're like, what is happening? So they're not gonna have any idea what's going on, and they'll likely misplay against you. All right, so we're going to run through some of the card choices. So like I said, Ezra is kind of like one of the central pieces of this deck. So we play all the best specters. So we have Kanan Jarrus, we have Sabine units, we have the Sabine leader, we also have Sabine's masterpiece. So all of those, you're pretty much, if you have an Ezra on the board, even if they like get rid of your Sabine leader, you're going to have something to put an experience token on. So like you're just grinding a lot of incremental advantage with that. The other key card in this deck is the Forces with Me, and honestly, it's a better Darksaber in this deck. You get to attack right away, and if you draw them in multiples, unlike a Darksaber, they actually get better. Whereas if you draw like multiple Darksabers, the extra ones you draw are dead cards. And it's like not giving your opponent a chance to interact, like is really strong, because what happens a lot of time with Darksaber is sometimes you just run out the Darksaber against open resources, and your opponent just deals with it right away, like they play a Fang Fighter or they play a Bamboozle or what have you, and you basically just skipped your turn. Whereas with the Forces with Me, you've already attacked with your Sabine, you've done 5 damage with it, and even if they have an answer, they've already taken a bunch of damage, and like they likely can't answer it like immediately. So like there's a good chance you get like you're gonna get minimum 5 damage in, and if you get to a second attack, you're gonna get 10 damage in with it. So like even if they do answer it, they're taking a ton of damage. And then there's a bunch of cards that, should the game go a bit longer, you can get to close out the game. So, like Cassian Andor is kind of like a staple in red heroic decks. So often, what will happen is that they'll have to use all of their resource to deal with all your threats, and then you can just like beat them down with a Cassian, out of the resource row. We also play like some of the bigger force units like Mace Windu and Luke Skywalker. So for games that go a little bit longer, like Mace Windu is your wrecker, and because we don't have to lose a resource, we can actually go up to 7. And then like Luke is just honestly one of the best cards in the game. Um, Most games, the game will be over before you get to play Luke. But Luke kind of does double duty here because being able to self force throw is actually quite valuable. So you can get rid of like really big problematic units. Just keep a Luke in your hand. You can force throw, takes out almost anything in the game. That's that's not going to be super late game. And there's also a big restore package. So against other aggressive decks, you can very effectively race. So there's cards like Sabine's Masterpiece, which effectively has Restore 2 in this deck, and Yaddle, which like gives you a lot of like little incremental restore. So we are playing a 28 health base, so against any like 25 health base, like you're gonna be able to race them. Unfortunately, one of the reasons that I don't recommend this deck for serious tournaments is the deck does have some pretty big weaknesses. So with all the like synergistic triggers and stuff like that, especially with like Ezra and like Forces with Me, you have to sequence your plays in a very specific way. And if your opponent kind of like figures out what's going on, they can disrupt you. And you're at that point you're just kind of playing like understudied units that aren't doing much. And then your Sabine flip turn can be awkward sometimes, just because you typically have to deploy Sabine on your first action or your second action if you want to ping first, and you're not able to like dirtle a bunch of actions and then deploy your Sabine, because you're gonna want to have you're gonna want Ezra to attack and put a counter on it. You're gonna want all your resources for that Forces with Me. So if your opponent does have an answer for like a naked Sabine, they're going to be able to use it, and that's just the way that it goes. I mean, it's nice that we have the redundancy with the extra Spectre cards, but it is going to happen quite often where you deploy your Sabine and then they just kill it right away, and then you can't do all your fun things anymore. So yeah, it does kind of fall apart to disruption a little bit. And then there's one card that's very problematic for this deck is Tarkin Town. So yeah, like any sort of deck that like ping leaders like Quinlan, Cad Bane, Tarkin Town, anything that can like kill your early game units, is a big problem. And while we do have some late game, our late game isn't as good as like dedicated mid range decks. So what I found in testing was it's kind of like a worse aggro deck than Sabine ECL, and it's a worse force deck than Han 2 Blue. So it kind of like attacks on both of those angles, but not as well as other decks. So it's kind of like it's kind of like a middle between the two, but like it doesn't excel in either angle nearly as well. But all that being said, it's still a very fun deck. I would recommend taking this to your locals and just having a blast and just like just go to town with your giant monster Sabine. There are some other cards you could play. So this deck did go through several revisions. So you could lean in more into the Rebel package with the cards like Wing Leader, Fleet Lieutenant, Medal Ceremony, stuff like that. You might be wondering why there's no For a Cause in this deck. I ended up having to cut it just because there's actually quite a few non-heroic cards in the deck, so it was often hitting only for like 2 or 3. But you can always change the deck around to play more like a higher density of heroic cards so that it reliably hits for 4. And then there's other like you can play other force payoff cards if you want to go for like a more like mid-rangey style. You can include like actual removal cards. So at one point I had Sorcerer's Blast in the deck. Shatterpoint was another card I had in the deck at one point. Chariot was another card that I had. Chariot was actually mostly for the new Vader stuff. just because I wanted to have like a big sentinel, so that Vader only kills one thing instead of two things. So that's another option you could do. There's another card that I had in the deck that is kind of a pet card of mine. Was Unleash Rage, because as I stated earlier, they often have to use all of their resources to deal with all your stuff. And if you've banked the force, you can just it's like a slow surprise strike, not so surprise strike. But it's, I mean, for like 3 damage for one resource, it can be quite a lot. It's a card I did have to cut, but it's another option that you could play. So but yeah, I hope that you enjoy the deck. Feel free to take it for a whirl on your online platform of choice, or at your local game nights. It's a super fun deck, and I hope you enjoy. So if you like this video, make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe. This is still a new channel. I only have like a dozen subscribers, so every little bit helps. So yeah, make sure you share this with all your friends. And yeah, subscribe for more Star Wars Unlimited content. I'm going to be doing some draft videos soon. Not so much like, oh, I recorded a draft. No, no, no. It's going to be like, hey, how to draft this particular leader, like what your pick order is, like what cards you want to prioritize and stuff like that. So I think the first one I'm going to do is a how to draft Kit Fisto. So stay tuned for that. There's a good chance I'm not going to have time to do that before Galactic Championships. So just because I have some like health issues, so like I can't necessarily work on videos every day. But yeah, stay tuned for that. I'm going to be doing lots of draft videos because rumor has it there's going to be limited PQs next season. So knowing how to draft is, especially set 5, is going to be a particularly useful skill if you have a limited PT. I almost called it a PTQ. It's magic brain rot. If you have a limited PQ in your area, or if you just want to win your local draft. So I'm not going to do like one for every single leader, but I'm going to do like the big common leaders, maybe a couple of the rare ones. And yeah, so if that sounds interesting to you, hit that subscribe button. And if you see me at Galactic Championships, feel free to say hello. Yeah. All right. That's all I got. Bye.